Hi, I'm Thomas.
I'm John Paul.
And I'm David.
We're going to be reviewing Batman Begins. We'll get a question, and each of us will have 30 seconds to answer.
What did you think of the overall story?
Okay, the story was very good. I really liked it. The way they did the flashbacks at the beginning was very well done. I really don't have any complaints overall. Yeah, it was good. The only maybe part I'd complain about is the Scarecrow, the way he died. I think that was kind of anticlimactic in a way, and it made him look just kind of insignificant.
The story was pretty good overall, especially in the first half, showing how Bruce Wayne becomes Batman. Then after he becomes Batman, the same thing happens with a ton of other superhero origin stories where the movie doesn't know where to go, so it just gives you some generic supervillain trying to take over the world plot type thing with Ra's al Ghul trying to destroy Gotham City. At that point, it just gets kind of dull and boring. But it's a pretty good story overall.
Yeah, as far as the plot goes for taking over the city, a lot of people have mentioned that the water vaporizing thing would vaporize the water in everyone's bodies and kill them, but I guess that's neither here nor there. My biggest problem is that they set up early on that Bruce Wayne won't kill people, but then at the end he basically kills Ra's al Ghul because he puts him in a situation where he'll die, and then he refuses to save him. And he just kind of tries to wash his hands of it, but really he's a murderer at that point.
What did you think of the casting?
Okay, so the casting. Christian Bale is good as Bruce Wayne. As Batman, he's decent, but his voice is definitely a bit over the top. It gets worse as the series progresses, but yeah, it's a bit grating at times. It's not completely his fault, I suppose. But, Michael Caine makes a pretty good Alfred. Gary Oldman is probably one of the best parts of the series as Gordon. Martin Freeman is Martin Freeman. Katie Holmes is a bit one note at times, I'd probably say. And I really like Cillian Murphy as a Scarecrow.
Yeah, Christian Bale's Batman. He makes a really good Bruce Wayne, I think, but as Batman, he's not bad, but the voice kind of ruins it, at least sometimes, because it's laughable, I think, sometimes. And Michael Caine, like you said, he makes a pretty good Alfred. He seems a bit, preachy sometimes, he'll, say stories or just give him a speech, or sometimes thinks he should just be there to support him. And, Liam Neeson, I don't know, for some reason I don't like him that much, even though he seems to do a very good job. Other than that, it seems to be pretty good.
Yeah, I thought the casting was pretty much perfect. I have really no complaints. Most of the problems is going to be with writing, not casting. Katie Holmes is the only weak point. Yeah, her acting was just not the best. It didn't really seem very genuine. Other than that, I thought the cast was perfect.
How was the action?
I thought the action was decent. It depends on the scene, really. The car chase, I think that's around the middle of the movie, that was decent. The hand-to-hand combat stuff, most of it isn't really shown. There's the one drug bust scene where he takes out a whole bunch of guys and you really don't see what's going on. That's disappointing. As a Batman movie, you generally want to see some cool hand-to-hand combat. The only really decent fight is at the end with Ra's al Ghul, and even that was kind of shaky, not the best cinematography. It was decent, and there was a decent car chase. So the action was okay. It certainly could have been a lot better. It was kind of the movie's downfall.
Okay. I think that in the first half of the movie, which is pretty much like when he's training with Ra's al Ghul and he takes out Ra's al Ghul's fortress, all the action in that is good. And then after he becomes Batman, it just gets bad. It's fine. Other than the car chase. But the stuff when he's training with Ra's al Ghul and they're fighting on the ice, and when he's fighting this pretend Ra's al Ghul guy, that was a good fight. But then when he gets to Gotham, there's the drug bust, or the part when he's taking down the Scarecrow's men. And even the last fight is very good. It's not as bad as the two drug bust fights, but after he gets to Gotham, the action is very good. other than the car chase.
I would agree to a certain extent with what both of you are saying, but as for the beginning part, the very first fight when he's fighting in the mud in the prison, that was bad, I thought. It's just too confusing, who's who, and I mean, at that point it doesn't matter as much because you're not as invested, but anyway, I don't actually like the car chase as much as you two. There's a couple of confusing like cuts and continuity errors, but it's not bad. And as far as the fight scenes go, there's just too many quick cuts and close-ups, and it's just confusing, and it's hard to tell what's going on. And as you said in the Batman movie, that's just really disappointing. So,
What did you think of the dialogue?
okay, so this movie has some cheesy dialogue. At the end, when the train is coming toward the station or whatever, where the water pipes are, the guy just keeps saying over and over again that, you know, it's going to blow and everyone needs to get out. And it's like, they just keep repeating this after it's already been established. And then the cops will have cheesy lines about Batman's...
I gotta get me one of those.
Batmobile.
Black.
There's a lot of, like, really talky stuff where Rachel Dawes gets really preachy with Batman, and there's cheesy lines.
I don't mind the script that much for the most part. I mean, it does have cheesy lines in it, but like for the most part, it's like not like a badly written script or anything. But yeah, like in almost any movie, superhero movie where there's policemen, they're always gonna have these really stupid lines. It's like a thing, I guess. It's weird. But yeah, other than cheesy lines, it's pretty mature.
I agree. The part where the train is going to crash into the tower, it's not as much the lines are cheesy, but it's telling you what you already know. And it's unnecessary. It's almost kind of saying that the audience is too dumb to tell what's going on. And other than that, the line that really bothered me more than anything else was the nice coat line. It just really sounded cheesy.
Nice coat.
In what was supposed to be an epic scene.
Thanks.
It was just it sounded cheesy. The dialogue was good overall.
John Paul mentioned the voice before. Did you guys have any other thoughts on his voice?
So the voice, I mean, I don't hate it, but it is very too much overdone, and I understand why what they were doing. Batman doesn't want to be recognized as the voice of Bruce Wayne, but it just seems after the people making it heard what it sounded like, they decided to change it because it sounds laughable sometimes, and it really takes away from the parts when Batman is trying to be menacing.
I didn't mind the voice that much of Batman Begins. I certainly probably prefer something less dramatic. But it actually, in the comics, like Nightfall, it mentions Batman has a gravelly voice that Azrael, I think that's what his name is, takes on to try to sound like him. But anyways, it was okay. I didn't mind it that much in Batman Begins. More The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises is when it gets annoying.
I would definitely agree that it kind of gets worse as the series progresses. There is definitely some evidence for that in the comics. And there's a practical reason for it, in that he just wants to disguise his voice so people can't figure out he's Bruce Wayne. But it is overdone, and sometimes just laughable when he's trying to deliver certain lines.
How accurately did it represent the comics?
As far as comic book accuracy goes, his backstory, it's not exactly like the comics, but I don't mind it. I think it's fine. His suit is... I don't mind that it's armored, but it does look pretty stupid. And... yeah, it's pretty much it.
Well, comic book accuracy... It was a good representation of the comics overall. There were a few inaccuracies, such as Bruce Wayne trying to kill the person who killed his parents. As far as the suit, it was a bit of a disappointment. I'd really enjoy a gray suit and not an entirely black one. It looked okay aesthetically. He couldn't turn his head. That was another big problem. I'd really like a suit that it was more accurate to the comics. That was my main gripe about it. And the Scarecrow could have been better.
Yeah, I thought the Scarecrow was good, but he needed more screen time. I thought he just gets pushed out at the end. And then, as far as the suit goes, I really just don't like this whole armored, big, bulky thing. Tim Burton movies did the same thing. They wanted him to look like a knight. I mean, he's not. He's like a ninja, not a knight. It's called the Dark Knight. But, yeah. And then, I wish it... As far as his origin story goes, I wish it would show Bruce Wayne's smarts and his knowledge. It goes into, like, his fighting ability and stuff like that, but it doesn't show that he's this, like, scientifical, detective, smart person. Like, there's a scene where Morgan Freeman's explaining something to him, and he says, am I supposed to understand that? Well, the Bruce Wayne in the comics would, because he's a genius, and this movie just kind of misses that.
How were the costumes?
Well, onto the costumes overall. Batman's costume was okay. I didn't like the cowl. It just didn't look right on Christian Bale. The cowl or the mask of any superhero is critically important. If the mask is off, it makes the person's face look funny, and it wasn't really right in this movie. The Scarecrow, what they did with him was decent. Obviously, the comic, there's more to the suit than just the hat. But, yeah, my main problem was with Batman's cowl.
Yeah, for the most part, the main problem in all the Batman movies that are live action is Batman's costume, especially the headpiece. I don't mind the armor at all, really. I know a lot of people have a problem with that. I don't really care that he has armor. But yeah, his headpiece does look stupid. And with the Scarecrow, the mask he wears is awesome, but I kind of wish at one point at the end he'd put on a full Scarecrow costume. I mean, he just wasn't in the movie enough, period. I wish they had gone all the way with it.
Yeah, I would agree with all their points. But with the armor, I definitely feel that he doesn't need a lot of armor. Maybe a little bit, but like even cops, they just wear a vest. They don't wear a whole suit. Soldiers do not wear a whole suit. And that's in the war zone. The action heroes generally don't wear armor at all. Batman does not need a big suit of armor.
Did you guys have any closing thoughts?
So overall, Batman Begins I don't think it's the best superhero origin story ever. I have a lot of problems with the third act. There's some comic book accuracy things, and the action isn't that great. But it is a pretty good movie overall. I do enjoy it.
For the most part, I think it does a great job of showing Batman's origin, and it has great characters, and while the action and script lacks sometimes, I think it's pretty good overall.
Certainly one of the better superhero movies. In the end, it misses a critical thing, which is not being afraid to adapt the comic for what it is. And it's a crime detective action drama with some heavy fantasy elements, and it pretty much leaves out the fantasy elements for the most part, which is really disappointing, and I really hope to see some more of the fantasy elements in the new Batman movies that are going to be coming out.